Welcome back to Miniature Mashup, guys. I'd like to start today's episode by thanking everyone who's donated to my GoFundMe so far. Thank you. You keep the channel going. And for those of you who have made video requests, I promise your videos are coming. Today we'll be working on a very easy, very affordable piece of terrain for your tabletop games. We're going to do some piles of lumber today, and not 2x4s, but rather just felled trees. This is the kind of thing you'd see in a wilderness camp or an outpost. One of the great things about it is it's completely timeless. It works in Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer 40k, the Mood of Endor if you're playing Star Wars. For the base on this week's project, I'm using a bit of plastic foam that came with some chicken wings I ate. Now, I know that sounds gross because chicken wings are all bloody, but you can clean this foam up with some detergent in the sink just like you would a plate, and now you've got a wonderful smooth piece of foam you can use, and it didn't cost you anything. The lumber itself is actually going to come from some trees of heaven that I cut down in my backyard. Now, trees of heaven are an invasive species, and as I was cutting them, I realized these would be the perfect scale to be actual trees, you know, big thick logs. So I took the branches that I cut off and I sat them in a window for 2 weeks and let them dry out, and they're very easy to work with. It's very, very light. So we're going to cut that piece of foam that came with our chicken wings, and we're going to cut that into two separate bases, each 3x4. I'm going to measure that out with a ruler, trace it out with a pen, and then cut it out with a safety knife. After that, we're going to measure out our wood. I'm going to use a black Sharpie to get us some 4-inch lengths on this Tree of Heaven branch, and we're going to cut it with a saw. You can try hacking at it with something else, but nothing's going to give you that cut lumber look better than a little saw here. You should have a little hobby saw anyway if you're going to be making terrain with wood. And once we chop through that, it looks pretty great. Already looks like a little log. I'm going to take our bases and I'm going to bevel the edge. This is going to be on the top, just so it's more of a gradual slope, looks a little more natural, and it doesn't just look like some kind of weird square platform that the lumber's been placed on. Now I'm putting a bunch of hot glue on the base. This isn't the best way to do this. It's probably better to just put hot glue on each individual log and then place that on the base, and that's what I did with my second piece and with the other logs. But you're just going to press that down into the foam and then the other wood on top of that, and we're just going to hot glue it all together. And hot glue works well on foam and wood. Now I've got some pegs here that are going to be sort of nailed in, holding the logs in place, sort of marking them. This is absolutely optional if you're going to just use this for a fantasy setting or for D&D. You really don't need to go this route. And you don't need to go this route anyway. It's just a little extra detail that I like. Another little point of interest. To me, just gluing a bunch of wood in a pile felt a little lazy. These little pegs are made out of a chopstick, and I cut them about 1 inch in length. Now I'm going to brush some very watered down PVA glue onto the base using a very cheap vinyl brush. And then we're going to take our craft sand and dump that on top and get that all around. And we're going to let that sit for at least an hour. Usually I let this stuff sit for a couple hours or overnight. Then we're going to paint the base a nice green, start dark. And then we're going to dry brush lighter greens on top of that and even pick out a couple of highlights here and there using a sort of light white color. Now I'm taking this mesh, which came from a pack of onions. It's the red mesh here, and it's going to basically be a stand-in for that sort of orange safety mesh you see around work sites. I like it. I think it makes it look sort of modern, sort of timeless. This would be something you'd see in the future even, like I said, for sci-fi games. To sort of mark the wood, and if someone's driving around a work site, they can see this bright orange, bright red mesh saying, hey, don't knock this peg out or the lumber's going to fall over. Anyway, guys, here it is, part of a goblin encampment. Just set up. I see all the grots have got their guns stationed in between. This is just lumber. They cleared this area for a later project. I think it looks pretty great, guys. Thank you, as always, for watching. Please check us out on Facebook, or if you want to support the channel, consider donating to my GoFundMe. The links are in the description below.